So our first speaker is Sharon Kerr. I'd just like to say she's actually also a member of our executive committee for open and distance learning. But most of you, if you know her, will know her because of the Global Access Project. Please, Sharon, go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jo, and what a delight it is to be able to present today on this fantastic subject which is so close to my heart, assistive technologies improving learning access. I'll be presenting for about 15 minutes and I'm hoping to lay the groundwork for Peter Fay, who we are all very privileged to have join in this webinar today from Boston, from IBM, and I know that you will all be excited about some of the innovations that he is going to reveal to us today. Can I please make sure that everyone is aware that this presentation is being captioned live, and there is a link underneath my email address here in which you can access the live captioning. Okay, well, here we go. Well, so welcome. Before I get started, I'd like to quickly introduce Global Access Project. We are a social enterprise of the Higher Education Consulting Group, and we're based in Sydney, in Bridge Street, Sydney. And our focus is working with colleges and universities and TAFEs to help them build solutions for social inclusion of all students, and so that they can achieve their full potential. So we do conversions of learning materials that aren't accessible, but we also provide strategic consultancy in a whole wide range of support solutions, including customized workshops and webinars like this, and also resource development and professional development through our online instance of Moodle. And we're also deeply involved with advocacy and working with groups such as ADSAT, which has been wonderful today in facilitating this webinar as well. Okay, so moving right along, and also with groups such as Liberated Learning Consortium, which is where GAP has come into collaboration with IBM and with Peter, who is going to be presenting later on today. So, my section of today's webinar is focusing on one theme, and that theme is that assistive technologies are no longer just about students with disabilities. It's not just about having technologies that can assist students with a visible disability or with a sensory disability. This is now about facilitating choice for all students in how they choose to access and engage with their learning. Assistive technologies are now hand in hand with the whole concept of individualized learning and student choice. Next slide. So, I'm going to very briefly be looking at providing an overall introduction to assistive technologies, exploring with you some of the cohorts of students who are looking for flexibility in how they access and participate with their learning, and just introduce ever so briefly the concepts of accessibility and universal design of curriculum. Next slide. So, what are assistive technologies? For those of you who have been involved in disability support and in the ADSET group and other support areas, you may feel quite comfortable with this whole idea of assistive technologies. But for those of you who have maybe come from different fields of education, maybe not quite sure. Basically though, when we are talking about assistive technologies, they fall into four categories. Category one is technologies that convert text to speech. So this is something like a screen reader that someone who is blind might use, or someone who has dyslexia might use, more traditionally that you would have been used to seeing, where they can actually listen to a reading rather than read it visually. The second of assistive technologies are technologies that convert speech to text. All right, so we're looking at technologies such as you may be aware of with Dragon Naturally Speaking, one of the Nuance projects. And I think some of the things that Peter is going to be excitedly talking about today. And there's technologies that empower users to change the fonts, the colours, the size, and the language of text. Yes, the language of text. So I'm talking here things like Google Translate, and that is an assistive technology. And the fourth area is wearable technologies. Next slide. Now, while many of these technologies have had their roots in supporting with people with a disability, I believe it's now nonsensical to think of these technologies in this limited way. When we think about all of these technologies, they have developed out of need. Think of all the innovations that have come about for humanity because of the work that NASA has done into space exploration. When we were putting someone on the moon, when we were, all of the work that NASA was doing there, their people were being disabled in an environment that was foreign to them, and they had to find workarounds. They had to be able to have powerless tools. Not powerless tools, cordless tools. They had to be able to use solar panels. There's a whole array of technologies that came out of space travel that had huge implications on our daily lives. And I believe that the same has happened with the need that has been created by disability that has driven innovation. Next slide. So, Dragon, Siri, Google Translate, Kindle, iPads, ebooks, Zoom functions, wearable devices such as Fitbit, text messaging, Twitter, accessible settings in our desktop and handheld devices are all examples of mainstream assistive technologies. These are no longer very expensive, individualized technologies that someone with a problem who is blind might go and pay several $1,000s for a program so that they can access text. These technologies are now part of the learning environment of every learner. I've done a screenshot here just from my computer, just from my MacBook Air. And I have accessibility settings on my MacBook Air. I can do Zoom, I can do VoiceOver, I can adjust the captions, and the list goes on and on that is just in my mainstream device here, not a specialized device. Next screen. All right, so what I'm going to do is I want us to consider very, very quickly just two questions. And obviously because of the way that this webinar is delivered, I'm not actually going to be able to hear your voices and hear your responses, but I'll anticipate some of the responses that you may give. The first question I want us to consider, okay, which cohorts of students, so you're thinking your students in your institutions, would benefit from having text versions of online audio lectures? What I'm seeing in the work that we're doing is we're seeing many, many hours of lectures, firstly being delivered in face-to-face mode, then put online for distance students. So the distance students are quite often being given audio files that are 2 hours long. I don't know about you, but for me, there is no way anymore that I want to just sit down to a 2-hour lecture, especially if I could have a text version of that online audio lecture, and I could then skip through that audio lecture to the areas that interest me or the areas that I didn't quite understand. so that I could use the search functions, so that I could manipulate that learning experience according to my learning preferences. Many students, I believe, would benefit from that. Of course, having text versions of online audio lectures, such as is being provided currently by IBM through Stream Text, is being done originally out of the need created for students and people who are deaf or hard of hearing. But the application of this and the value is there for everyone. And I believe we need to embrace that in order to facilitate individualized learning. Next slide. Okay, the next question is, which cohorts of students, your students, the ones that you know, do you believe would benefit from being able to listen to their readings while doing other activities? Again, in the work that I'm doing, and my background is as a teacher, a school teacher, and then as a university lecturer, and then in university work. And I know that quite often students have many, many thousands of pages to read. The reality is, though, that students very rarely have a very quiet place that they can go and read, both physical space or time space. Students are time poor. Students trying to multitask. You may have students who are carers, who are doing work for, as drivers, for example, looking after children, looking after elderly people. People who have not got a nice quiet space and would like to actually listen to their readings while they're taking a jog or while they're doing something else, according to their learning preferences. Again, that technology has come about originally for people who are blind or for people who have dyslexia or other print disabilities. I think it's very interesting that Ray Kurzweil, who was the creator of the Kurzweil machine, which was one of the first assistive technologies that actually created text-to-speech, is now working with Google. Next slide. Each student has their own learning needs and personal situations which impact on their ability to fully engage with education delivered in a traditional manner. Next slide. Students are either currently using assistive technologies or carrying around these devices with inbuilt assistive technologies that can enhance access options if materials are designed and delivered accessibly. Next slide. So, what this means then is that there is an onus on us to create things accessibly. Assistive technologies are just one of the 3 pillars supporting full flexibility for students to access their learning according to their learning preferences. And the other 2 are the institutional commitment to accessibility, not just of text, but of audio, of video, and universal design of curriculum. Next slide. This is just a little diagram I have done here, which at the top there is the choice for students, and holding up that choice for students is assistive technologies, accessibility, and universal design. And at GAP, we believe that those 3 are the major pillars to enable choice for all students. Next slide. When Apple iPhone came out, it did not support Flash. And why was that? Because according to Steve Jobs, it was a system that was designed for PCs using mice, not for touch screens using fingers and people being able to touch. And therefore, it would not provide users with the opportunity to engage with the online material in their way of choice and in the way that their handheld devices were designed to enable. there was such a hoo-ha. I don't know if you remember what Flash used to be like, and with these websites coming, and there'd be a Zoom going by, and there'd be a diagram there, and people thought, my goodness, half the internet is designed this way. How on earth are we going to redesign everything to make sure that people can access it on an iPhone? But what happened? People changed how they were doing things. They avoided Flash to ensure that iPhone users could access their information. Now, similarly, I believe that the time has now come that we need to ensure that we design, deliver, and assess our learning in such a way that all students have maximum flexibility in how they choose to engage with their learning. This is about choice for students, about students having that flexibility to access learning the way they want to, the way they need to remove stress from the whole learning environment. Next slide. So what do we have to do to ensure accessibility and universal design? And I've just put flippantly here, the good news is that it's not hard, but the bad news is that it's a whole other webinar. And I am sure that, like me, you are looking forward to hearing Peter's presentation. And but I've just put there 2 resources to get you started, and so that for those of you who are interested in this, please follow those and feel free to contact me with questions and anything I can do to assist. Next slide. So universal design of curriculum and ensuring accessibility of all learning materials so they can be accessed by students using assistive technologies needs to be foundational to flexible learning in the future. All right then, what I think I will do is hand over to Peter so that he can present from Boston. And what a thrill it is. So I am going to stop showing my screen now, and we will get Peter changed to as the presenter. And thank you very much for attending.
In the meantime, I would just like to say thank you very much to you for that very interesting presentation. I've made some notes. So please, over to you, Peter.
Hello, everybody. Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. Okay, so today my talk is on inclusive social learning and what we're doing at IBM. And I work in the IBM Accessibility Organization, and we're a global organization, and we have a 3-fold mission. One, to make sure that the products that IBM ships to our clients are accessible. Second, that our internal systems and IT, information technology, are accessible to our employees. And third, we're working with clients and business partners all around the world to help them with their accessibility initiatives. And my role in the team is as a leader for the higher education industry. So the accessibility-related work and projects that I'm focused on are in the higher ed space. So what I'm going to cover today is to give you a quick introduction to our inclusive social learning platform, and then I'm going to talk about the enhanced accessibility solutions that my engineering team that's based in Austin, Texas are focused on. The accessibility team at IBM is also part of IBM Research. So we get involved in doing our own internal research, but we're also working collaboratively with institutions around the world on joint research programs, and in some cases those are funded by the government. And then finally I wanted to close out with some resources that IBM provides for higher educational institutions that you can all take advantage of. So our objective in the inclusive social learning solution area is really to help institutions enhance the student online experience through inclusive social collaboration and accessibility solutions. It's really a very simple mission, and we think some of the things that we're doing are really starting to make a difference. Next slide. First, I want to give you a high-level overview of our platform. And at the top of the screen, you can see I've called out EPUB accessible authoring tools. We're not in the content development area of technology, but as Sharon pointed out in her talk, it's not only the systems and the devices that have to be accessible, it's the information that's presented through those applications and tools. And so when you're developing content, it's important to select authoring tools that will help you produce that accessible content. And IBM has been very involved and taken a leadership role in working on the EPUB standard, and we think that that is gaining tremendous traction in the marketplace to help institutions develop online learning materials that then can be accessible. The next level down on the chart, you see there's 3 blocks, and another area that we think is very important as learning programs and course offerings move online is that collaboration is an essential piece of that. Now, IBM has been in the collaboration business for many, many years, going back to the earliest days of Lotus Notes that some of you might have heard of. And we really think there's kind of 3 aspects to this. The first aspect is what we call real-time communications. And we have a product in the market called IBM Connections. And that tool has an instant messaging and meeting component. Not unlike GoToMeeting, for example. There's other vendors out in the marketplace that have comparable tools, and Citrix's GoToMeeting is also a good one. Other vendors that you've probably heard of in this space, Microsoft, of course, and Cisco with their WebEx platform. So the point is here not that you have to decide on an IBM solution, but it's really more the capabilities. And the vendor of choice, you have some options out there in the marketplace. So the real-time communications piece is for interactive sessions like this one, where we're sharing some information and then we'll get some real-time feedback from you in the Q&A portion. So, and then on the right side, our platform Connections also supports what we call social collaboration. Collaboration doesn't always need to be in real time. You may want to go to a forum, for example, and post a question and then get feedback from that over time, students from their classmates or faculty members. And so we support both modes of collaboration, social and real time. And also, this collaboration platform, or whatever you decide, really needs to interact nicely and behave well and integrate well with the learning management system that the institution is standardized on. And Sharon mentioned earlier in her talk that part of the way that she is delivering information to her clients and colleagues is through the Moodle LMS, for example. So regardless of the one you choose, it really has to integrate well and interoperate well with the collaboration platform that you choose. Now in the center, the block here is really speaking to the idea that the platform you choose have to be built with accessibility in mind. And the standard around the world is known as the WCAG 2.0 compliance standards. And WCAG 2.0 basically means that any of the applications that adhere to that standard can be accessed with assistive technology. And in the U.S., we have the federal government guidelines called Section 508, and that is a standard that applies directly to educational institutions and enterprises in the U.S., really forcing them to make sure that their online learning and customer-facing systems are accessible. And then the IBM Accessibility Group, we kind of focus in 2 areas, and I've called these out at the bottom of the slide. On the end user side, so for example, students and faculty, developing solutions that make, for example, online media or online courseware accessible through automated captioning, just as one example. We also have a focus on working with developers, both system developers and content developers, in building tools that will help them build applications and content that is accessible when those systems are put into a campus environment. And we've also got a strong focus in the area of mobile. As we know, more and more application and content delivery is not only delivered on the desktop, but it's delivered down on the mobile device. So all of the applications that we deliver to our clients include a mobile component. To the next slide, just a couple screenshots here. This is a screenshot of our Connections meeting on the left, and you can see the meeting environment supports integrated video conferencing, much like GoToMeeting does, and that's what the user experience looks like. And on the right side of the chart is where your, for example, if you're doing a presentation like I am, your PowerPoint would show up on the right side. Our tool also supports not just sharing documents and presentations, but you can also do things like live demos. You can take over another user's desktop with their permission to help them with something on their system and so forth. Now this is the mobile user experience for our meetings and chat, and the screenshot on the left is me doing a video conference on my iPad. And you can see that the user experience on the mobile takes advantage of the footprint or format of the iPad. It shows the, you can see the thumbnails of the different slides in my presentation down at the bottom. And the beauty of this is I can do an interactive video conference sharing my presentation with my colleagues, all while sitting in my chair on a wireless network with my iPad on my lap. The right-hand screenshot is for our IM client, again, running on an iPhone. And we support both iOS and Android platforms. So what you see here also works on Android. This is a screenshot of the desktop for our social collaboration tool. And this tool is basically a set of templates that makes it very easy for end users to build without any coding online communities. And this particular one is an example of one that I built with the University of Massachusetts in Boston, since it's right in my backyard. And you can see on the left-hand side of the screen the navigation bar. And then the center, you can see a photo of the campus center at UMass. And then the major parts of the application, like online forums, social bookmarks, so I can share important websites with my classmates and faculty. Has a built-in blogging capability, so you can share information to your community by easily creating a blog post. And you can see on the screen a few more of the applications, like a library function and a wiki feature as well. And we find that having this online community, first of all, you can create it so that you have to be invited or a member of that community. You can set it up securely either on the cloud or behind your firewall, so it's just not out on the internet trying to do all of your collaboration with your campus community on the public internet. You have a secure private space just for the university interactions. The social collaboration tool runs on mobile as well. These apps are available for download from the app stores for free. And the one on the left is the Connections community for UMass running on an iPad. You can see the format there is for 2 columns, whereas on the desktop it was 3. So what we do is we adapt the user interface so that it works nicely on that form factor. Since the iPad is bigger, I can handle 2 columns very easily. But when I move over to my mobile device, my iPhone on the right, the form factor in the app is configured for single for a single column delivery. The beauty of it is the information is all the same. I can use these interchangeably, and I can really adapt accessing the content to whatever mode I happen to be in. If I'm at my desk and I've got my 27-inch monitor, great, I can do that. If I'm on the run, on the road, I can use my mobile device and always stay connected with my community. Next, I wanted to take you through what we're doing in the IBM Accessibility team. And I refer to these as enhanced accessibility solutions. As I pointed out, the applications that we ship to our clients, like the Connections platform, come out of the box with the WCAG 2.0 support. But WCAG 2.0 support for an application doesn't necessarily refer to all of the content that's in that application. So this is kind of where our team comes in. So here's the kind of the portfolio that we introduced into the market this year. And the top row there are the more end-user oriented tools. And the three on the bottom half of the screen are geared more towards the developer community and the IT. And so I have a chart on each one of these, and I'm going to just give you kind of a quick intro so you can get an idea of some of the kinds of things that we're doing. Next slide. With the rapid kind of evolution of learning from classroom to online to flipped classroom models and so forth, more and more of the information that students consume when they're learning is through online media like videos and podcasts. So, so obviously if a student is deaf or hard of hearing, then that content is not available to them unless the audio portion of that is converted to text or captions or a transcript, for example. So we've built a tool called Media Capture and Editor, and we've been using this inside of IBM for a few years now because, like every organization, more and more of the information that we use to learn, our executives use to communicate with us, coming in the form of videos. So we needed a tool internally that we could use to caption our content. So we built the Media Capture and Editor. It was built in IBM Research. And this tool is for post-production captioning. In other words, a class or a meeting has been videotaped, and you submit that finished video to our system, and it automatically creates a synchronized caption for that. And the way we do that is our system has an automated speech recognition engine integrated into it. And what that piece of software does is it actually listens to the audio track, and then it maps it to a very extensive dictionary or with vocabulary. And so it finds the word that matches the audio or the sound, and it creates a caption, and it places it in a synchronized format so that it goes right along with the video. So the students that are listening to the audio track or the students that are reading the captions are hearing the same information at the same time. We're also seeing that captions create a rich data set that can be leveraged for searching content, courseware, anything that's online, and actually helping find out where that content is, let's say, in a 50-minute lecture. So the whole idea of being able to have better search for this video content is something that I think everybody's really looking for. And so we have this tool available. It can be either delivered as a cloud service or as an on-premise solution behind the firewall. Sharon also mentioned the idea of assistive technology, and we have done some work in this space, but our focus is more on enterprise users or large institutions as opposed to an individual person working on their computer. There's plenty of assistive technology vendors that build more end user, but we don't sell to the end user anymore. We sell to the institution or to the business. So the idea of Easy Web Browsing Cloud came about to help institutions create a web experience that could be personalized to the user's preference. They wouldn't need a separate tool. When they come to your website or to your learning management system, they'd have an integrated toolbar that they could toggle on or toggle off that could give them some really neat functions that would allow them to personalize the look and feel. And some of these are related to accessibility. For example, if you have a hard time reading the screen, wouldn't it be great if you could just have the web page read to you? So we have a read aloud feature. Students with specific vision issues may need to customize the look and feel of the screen, for example, by using a different color combination than the developer of the web page originally intended. So you can change the background to blue and the text to yellow, for example, as you can see in the upper right of the screen. Black on yellow for some vision conditions is much more consumable for that end user than a standard, white page with black text. So we have the ability to enlarge, the font sizes with the click of a button, and it's really a nice, easy-to-use tool that can provide that kind of enhanced accessibility experience for students and all kinds of learners. And it'll work on a desktop. It'll also work on mobile devices as well. The next one is our Accessible Workplace Connections tool. And this was another project that started internal at IBM on figuring out a way how we could automate the accommodation process across IBM and really standardize it so that no matter which country, and over the 140 countries that we do business in, if an employee has to request an accommodation to do their work, that they have a simple automated way to do that, and that it works the same wherever you are. So we built a tool called AWC is the acronym that we use internally, and it's basically launched from our portal for our intranet, and any student, or excuse me, any employee or their manager can go in and request an accommodation to help that person be effective in their job and in the workplace. And so it basically is a wizard-like interface that kind of walks you through a process of requesting the accommodation you need. Some of them are very straightforward, like I have a repetitive stress injury and I need an ergonomic keyboard or mouse. Well, within 5 or 6 clicks, you can request that type of accommodation. But for more for other disabilities that require more intervention and kind of human interaction to decide what the right accommodation is, the tool also allows you to connect with our HR organization and with the medical staff that's part of our HR team to help that employee evaluate what the different potential solutions are to help them be more effective in their job. And this has really allowed us to create a much more inclusive workplace for our employees, and also attract new candidates with disabilities so that we can continue to kind of grow a diverse population inside of IBM. And the other kind of aspect to this that I think is really important is, as I mentioned, because the products that we build and the internal systems that we make available to our employees all are mandated to be accessible. When we bring a new blind employee or hard of hearing employee or deaf employee into the workplace, we know when they go to the internet that they're going to be able to access the information that they need. When they go to watch a video, if they need captions, they're going to be there for them. And the idea of being able to automate that process and then do reporting on the back end and connect everybody together we've seen some real benefits to taking this kind of approach. Now, I mentioned we have a focus on end users, but we're also, a technology company. So the type of solutions that we sell to our clients, for the most part, are very technical. There's a lot of software that we sell. There's a lot of, we still sell mainframe software and hardware. And so the idea is that we need to make sure that all of this technology that gets into the marketplace is accessible. So we developed a tool that we use internally at IBM called the Enterprise Compliance System. And the tool consists of kind of three components. The first one is it includes and allows you to load up the accessibility checklists. So like the WCAG 2.0 AA checklist can be loaded in our system, and then when a team is introducing a product, they can check their work against the checklist to make sure that it meets the accessibility guidelines. Now, while, especially in our software business, while our engineering teams are developing their applications and making sure they comply with the checklist, obviously they have to test the work that they've done. So we include, as part of the compliance system, a set of web accessibility tools that allow them to test their work. We've integrated a Firebug plugin that allows developers in real time to test their work. It flags the errors or accessibility violations, and then it also gives them pointers and recommendations on how to fix the error so that it passes the accessibility guidelines. And then the last thing is that we have a tracking system that's integrated as part of the solution that allows us to track our work over time. Because as you know, these accessibility guidelines and checklists change over time. So as the checklists change, we maintain a history of the work that's been done and the checklists that they were tested against. And so that way we kind of have a system of record of all of our accessibility programs and compliance efforts over time. Mobile has become huge in our business. In fact, we've had an initiative for the last couple of years called Mobile First, because more and more of our clients are interfacing with our systems on mobile devices. There's been a huge proliferation of mobile apps that all of our clients are now delivering, who traditionally just delivered information over the web. So as clients move their apps down to mobile platforms, there was a gap in kind of the accessibility tooling, so a lot of the apps that went out there on the mobile weren't accessible. So we saw a need and a gap in the marketplace, so we built a tool called the Mobile Accessibility Checker, and it basically allows you to, during the development process, test the accessibility of applications, and it works on native apps on iOS, native apps on Android, and even it works in hybrid mobile web apps. This application can be, it's more of a developer-oriented tool. So for example, for Apple developers, it can be, it works with iOS 8 and 9, including their Swift development environment. And we also provide a toolkit with a solution so that other developers and software companies can embed our tool into their offerings. And we completed an integration earlier this year with one of our business partners, the SSB BART group. And SSB BART took our mobile accessibility checker and it extended their own accessibility management platform so that it would support mobile, because their focus had only been web. And so instead of developing the mobile side of it themselves, we partnered up, and they're leveraging our technology now as part of their offering. You've all probably heard all of the hype, some of it good, some of it bad, on the movement of IT away from clients and its enterprises and institutions deploying technology in their own data centers and on-site into taking advantage of the cloud, offerings from Amazon, from Google, from Microsoft, and from IBM. And we have made a big, big push at IBM into the cloud space, and we have an offering in the marketplace now that we call Bluemix. And it's basically a platform that developers can quickly provision, the tools and technology they need to build their solutions upon without having to do any deployment of hardware or operating systems or any of that. And so we're getting some great traction on that in the marketplace. So what we decided to do is the whole shift for accessibility is moving to the cloud as well. So earlier this summer in North America, a couple months back, we introduced our first 2 accessibility services that are running on our Bluemix cloud platform. The first one on the left of the screen is the Digital Content Checker, and this is a tool that allows content developers to easily upload their content either in HTML format or in the EPUB standard format to check the accessibility of the content that they're providing to their end users. And the tool basically it has a dashboard component to it, so once you submit the doc, it comes back and it gives you a list of all of the violations or warnings that our accessibility rule sets have detected, and also gives suggestions and tips on how to fix that content so it will be accessible. And it basically assures that when you're putting content out on the internet, that people using assistive technology will be able to access the content. So we have this on a free trial right now out in the cloud, and we're getting some very good engagement around it. And then on the right side, we also have an automated accessibility tester, and this is a tool that allows you to integrate accessibility testing into your development process. And one of the very popular ones out there, development processes and testing frameworks, is called Selenium. So instead of developing your whole app and then doing the accessibility testing at the end, our tool allows you to integrate it into your development process, so the accessibility testing is done alongside the development. So by the time the product's ready, it's accessible before it ships. So that's kind of a quick overview or introduction to our portfolio. I also wanted to share with you some of the research work that we're doing as well. In IBM Research, we have 12 research labs around the world, and you'll see that we do have one in Australia. My technical team is based in the Austin lab over in the States, and the accessibility organization, accessibility team that I'm part of, we're affiliated with the T.J. Watson Lab, which is based in upstate New York. And you can see we have labs in India, China, and all around the world. And about half these labs have focused accessibility initiatives as part of the work that they're doing. We also have a program that we leverage from our university relations organization called the Collaborative Innovation Center. And we've been working very closely with the University of Massachusetts and more recently University of Massachusetts Medical School on basically teaming up and leveraging the research capabilities of the academic institutions and then enabling them on our core technology products like Watson that some of you may have heard of, the supercomputer that won the Jeopardy competition a few years back, our cloud platform, and also technology from research. And the whole idea is to bring the academic research, the technology research, and also the policy research in teaming up with the governments around the world so that we really put all our resources together to address the accessibility challenges that we all face instead of trying to tackle it each one separately. Just doing a time check here. got a few more things I want to take you through. So what about the resources for universities? We have a long-standing commitment to universities, and we have a global organization that we refer to as University Relations, and we have tons of great information out on our website. I wanted to just show you a few things out there that you may want to consider, how you could have a closer working relationship with IBM and leverage some of the things that we're doing in the higher educational industry. Above and beyond just accessibility, that's my focus area. This goes much broader than that. So I'm going to exit the PowerPoint here, and I'm going to just jump over to my Firefox browser. There you can see the transcript from the captions. And I'm going to go to the University Relations tab. So you can see here, this is the web page. My slides, which I will make available after the call, have a URL to this website, so it'll be easy for you to come back to it if you're interested. You'll notice here some of the key initiatives like IBM Academic Initiative, for example. This is a program I've been leveraging with the universities that I'm working with. So I'll just click on that. They have a new initiative that they've just launched for the second half of 2015 called Academic Initiative for Cloud. And basically what this program does is it will give any university that signs up and students in the class free access to our cloud platform, no charge. We also have academic pricing for all of our commercial products, which start at 50% of list. So there's some real good financial incentives, and we know, institutions in the public sector are strapped for technology investment, and so we're doing our best to make our technology available. Now, there's also a research aspect to this particular program, which I'm leveraging for my project with University of Massachusetts, which is basically, because it's academic research, which tends to be medium to long-term projects, free access for 24 months at no charge. So we have some PhD students, some undergraduate students, and some faculty all working together to focus on areas for students with cognitive disabilities. And so we're really excited about the potential, and the university's getting access to IBM technology for free. And then also we're teaming up the university with some of our experts in these platforms, and we offer free training classes and things like that so they can get up to speed. You can see here we have programs for students. So students that have a technology focus to their education, if they want to get up to speed on IBM tools and technologies, we offer the software for free. And we also offer developer communities so the students can collaborate online together. And also other research programs and some awards that faculty can apply for. So if you're not familiar with our programs and think you might be interested in, just spend a little time on this site, and I'd be happy to work back through Sharon if you're interested in getting connected to IBM team in the university space over in Australia. I'd be happy to make those introductions for you. And with that, with just about 2 minutes to spare, I'm wrapping up. So thank you, everybody, for your time today, and I hope this information was helpful.